Welcome to Tales of Bedlam, a fairy tale audio comedy.
You're a bit of a lightweight, you know.
What?
Oh, sorry.
I'm your host,
Off topic.
Micah, a.k.a. Knob Twister.
I am death. No, we put him away. He won't be here tonight. I'm Dustin, the sofa sitter.
Every Thursday, we will present to you another hand-picked fairy tale from a different time, place, and culture. Or as Dustin likes to say,
Dimension.
Nice.
Because if we kill people off, we can just bring them right back.
That's right. I killed Dustin off last weekend, and he's here again.
I'm a sofa sitter from another dimension, sister.
At Tales of Bedlam, we are grateful for you. You. Yes, you, the listener. You listening right now. Let us know how we are doing. Leave us a comment on Facebook, Twitter, or our website at talesofbedlam.com.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
And if you really think we're amazing, then the best way to help us is to leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening. It really does help others find our excellence.
We are excellent.
We don't need to get a big head or anything.
Party on, Ted.
So, without further ado, today's fairy tale is a Slavic or Russian tale, The Laughing Prince, the boy who could talk nonsense.
Oh, this is perfect. I talk all kinds of nonsense. Here we go. There once was a farmer who had 3 sons and 1 little daughter. Mm-hmm. The eldest son was a studious boy who learned so much out of books that the farmer said, "We must send Mihailo to school and make a priest of him." The second boy was a trader. Whatever you had, he would get it from you by offering you something else for it. Well, thank you for defining what a trader is. And always what he gave you was worth less than what you gave him.
Ooh, so he's not a trader, he's a swindler.
Yeah, he's a con man. Nicely done. Jakov will make a fine peddler, the farmer said. He's industrious and sharp, and someday he'll probably be a rich man.
Probably, but maybe not.
And he might end up in jail.
But Stefan, the farmer's youngest son, had no special talent, and because he didn't spend all of his time with his nose in a book, and because he never made the best of a bargain, his brothers scorned him.
Boo.
Militsa, his little sister, loved him dearly, for he was kind and jolly. In the evening, he was always ready to tell her stories and play with her. But the farmer, of course, listened to the older brothers. Of course. Why of course?
Being kind and jolly is a special talent.
I dare say it's better than a swindler. And sometimes better than a priest, depending on if he's a good one.
Well, we're not going to go down the priest road tonight. This is a long one, so we'll try not to get sidetracked.
Okay. But
kind and jolly is a special talent.
He's like Santa.
Coal in the stockings. No, that's not Santa. That's the other one. I don't know about poor Stefan, he used to say. He's a good boy, but he talks nonsense. Mm-hmm. I suppose he'll have to stay on the farm and work. Boo.
There's nothing wrong with living on a farm and working.
I'm kind of jolly and talk nonsense, and I don't live on a farm. Now, the truth is, the farm was a fine place for Stefan, for he was strong and lusty.
Ooh. Hey, boy.
And he liked to plow. Wow. And harvest. I'm doing exactly what I tell you not to do. And harvest, as he had a wonderful way with the animals. I can't. He talked to them as if they were human beings, and the horses all whinnied when they came near, and the cows rubbed their soft noses against his shoulder. Ooh. And as for the pigs, ... they loved him so much that whenever they saw him, they used to run squealing between his legs. He was lusty. Stefan is nothing but a farmer, Mihailo used to say, as though being a farmer was something to be ashamed of. Don't shame farmers.
I love farmers. And Jackoff said, if the village people could see the pigs following him about, how they'd laugh at him. I hope, when I go to the village to live in a penthouse, he won't be visiting me all the time.
Was Jackoff the swindler? Yeah,
Yes, he was.
Just living in Trump Tower.
Another thing the older brothers couldn't understand about Stefan was why he was always laughing and joking. He did the work of two men, but whether he was working or resting, you could always hear him cracking his merry jokes and laughing his jolly laugh.
Wow. I think he's a fine man.
Yeah, we're always joking around.
I think he's foolish, Mihailo said. That seemed like a short line for me.
Jackoff hopped.
He hopped?
Yes, he hopped. I mean, he hoped that the village people wouldn't hear about his carryings on. They'd laugh at him, he said. They'd laugh at us too because we're his brothers.
But Stefan didn't care. The more they frowned at him, the louder he laughed. And in spite of their dark looks, he kept on cracking his merry jokes and talking nonsense.
I like it.
Go, Stefan. You're my new hero. And every evening after supper, his little sister Milica clapped her hands and cried.
Now, Stefan, tell me a joke. Tell me a story.
Weird. That was weird. Father, Mihailo would say, you ought to make him keep quiet. He's foolish. And all he does is fill Milica's head with nonsense.
This always made Milica very indignant. And she would stamp her little foot and say, he isn't... Sorry. Oh, he isn't foolish. He knows more than anyone. And he can do more things than anyone else. And he's the handsomest brother in the world.
Lovely. You see, Milica loves Stefan dearly. And when you love a person, of course you think that that person is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that exposition.
Yes.
But the father supposed that Mihailo...
Wait, what? If you love a person, you think that person's wonderful?
Yeah. It's weird, I know, but...
I need to tell my wife.
Now that we have spelled it out...
You're wonderful, baby.
Oh, fourth wall break. No, wait a minute. Was that like a sixth wall break? Why, there's...
Fifth. No,
you shouldn't
fifth,
even have a wall.
Fourth, fifth, sixth.
That
no,
was the
wall.
the dimensional wall break. And this next sentence makes my head hurts. Makes my heads, because I have more than one head, hurt. Makes my head hurt. But the father supposed that Mihailo must be right, for Mihailo studied in books.
Oh.
Right.
He's book learned.
So he shook his head and sighed every time he thought of Stefan.
Now the kingdom in which the three brothers lived was ruled over by a great Tsar who
I love Tsars.
had an only daughter.
Ooh.
I bet he wants to marry her off.
Ooh.
In disappointment that he had no son, the Tsar was having his daughter brought up as though she were a boy.
Not some great parenting.
He sent all over the world for tutors and teachers and had the poor girl taught statecraft and law and philosophy. He made her watch 8 seasons of Game of Thrones and all the other things that the heir to the throne ought to know.
Why was that a bad thing? What's going on?
He's just raising her to take the throne.
Okay, like girls couldn't do that?
He's not saying she can't. Even if he had a son, he'd still teach him how to rule, right?
Right. Because having his daughter brought up as though she were a boy is what it says. And then he sent all over for tutors and teachers and had the poor girl start statecraft and law and philosophy.
Dustin.
Poor girl.
I don't think it was in a bad way. He was preparing her to rule because he didn't have a son, and at the time, a son would have had claim to the throne. Whereas, since he didn't, he was preparing his daughter the best he could so that when he died, she would be able to rule in his place. It's not that he thought she was any less.
Where's the queen in this story?
Oh, gosh. You're up.
Won't anybody find me somebody to love?
Oh, we were like in complete harmony.
That was not harmony, and we apologize right now that happened. And that's not the queen we were talking about.
Oh.
The princess, because she was an obedient girl, and because she loved her father, tried to spend all her time in study. But the dry old scholars whom the Tsar employed as teachers were not amusing companions for a young girl. And the first lady in waiting, who was in constant attendance, who was in constant attendance, was scarcely any better, for she too was old and very prim. Get this poor girl something to do. If the poor little princess, that was right. If the poor little princess, between her geography lessons and arithmetic lessons, would peep for a moment into a mirror, the first lady in waiting would tap her arm reprovingly and say, "My dear, vanity is not becoming in a princess." Man, she can even look at herself in a mirror?
One day, the little princess lost her temper and answered sharply,
"Get her."
"But I'm a girl, even if I am a princess, and I love to look in mirrors, and I love to make myself pretty, and I love to go to the ball every night of my life and dance with handsome young men."
She broke out into song, apparently. "You talk like the daughter of a farmer," the first lady in waiting said.
Then the princess, because she lost her temper still further, said something she should have not said.
"I wish I were the daughter of a farmer," she
declared.
"Then I could wear pretty ribbons and go dancing with the boys. Would come courting me.
I have no idea what's going on.
I have to spend all my life with funny old men and silly old women. The boys."
Apparently we've moved to Broadway. I wasn't informed this was going to be a musical before it started, just so everybody knows.
Dancing
with
the boys.
Now, even if her tutors and teachers were funny-looking old men, even if the first lady in waiting was a silly old woman, the princess should not have said so.
No.
I don't know why not. It hurt the feelings of the first lady in waiting and made her angry, and she ran off to the Tsar at once and complained most bitterly. While thin-skinned, "Is my reward after all the years of loving long service to your daughter?" she asked. "Is it true that I've grown old and thin after all her manners, and now she calls me a silly old woman? And all the learned wise men and scholars that you have gathered from the far corners of the earth, she points her fingers at them and calls them funny old men."
The fact is, they were funny looking, most of them. But yet, the first lady in waiting was right. The princess should not have said so.
Well, I think she was fine. Were we still first lady in waiting here? Yep. "And think of her in gratitude to yourself, O Tsar," the first lady in waiting continued. "You plan to make her the heir of your throne, and yet she says she wishes she was the farmer's daughter, so that she could deck herself out in ribbons and have the boys come courting her. A nice thing for a princess to say."
The Tsar, when he heard this, fell into an awful rage.
Terrible.
The truth is, whatever temper the princess had, she inherited direct from her father.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
He was pissed.
This is such a good story.
Wow! He roared. "Just that way. Send the princess to me at once. I'll soon have her singing another tune."
So the first lady in waiting sent the princess to her father, and as soon as he saw her, he began roaring again and saying,
"Wow, wow! What do you mean, funny old men and silly old women?" You'll be all right. Oh, it's still me. Now, whenever the Tsar began roaring and saying, "Wow, wow!" the princess always stiffened, and instead of being the sweet and obedient daughter she usually was, she became obstinate. Her pretty eyes would flash, and her soft, pretty face would harden, and people would whisper, "Mercy on us! How much she looks like her father."
That's just what I mean, the princess said. There are a lot of funny old men and silly old women. I'm tired of them. I want to be amused. I want to laugh. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh, I don't know if I can do 3 of them. "Wow, wow, wow!" roared the Tsar. "A fine princess you are. Go straight back to the schoolroom and behave yourself."
So the princess marched out of the throne room, holding her head very high, and looking so much like the Tsar that the first lady in waiting was positively frightened.
Oh, yeah. Scared her tushy.
The princess went back to the schoolroom, but she did not behave herself.
Yeah.
She was really very naughty.
Naughty.
When the poor man, who knew more than anybody in the world about the influence of stars upon the destinies of nations, came to give her a lesson, she threw her book out the window.
Yeah.
When the
What kind of word is that?
No,
superannuated?
Superannuated. Superannuated.
Nobody knows what that word is.
Old general who was teaching her military maneuvers offered her a diagram on which the enemy was represented by a series of black dots and our soldiers by a series of red dots. She took the paper and tore it in 2.
What?
And worst of all, when the old scholar who was teaching her Turkish, for a princess must be able to speak all languages,
of course,
dropped her horn spectacles on the floor, she deliberately stepped on them and broke them.
Oh, man.
Oh, my word.
She was naughty. When the Tsar heard all these things, really, he just wowed something terrible. "Lock that young woman in her chamber," he ordered. "Feed her on bread and water until she's ready to apologize."
But the princess, far from being frightened by his treatment, calmly announced,
"I won't eat even your old bread and water until you send me someone who will make me laugh. Ha, ha, ha."
I feel like I'm in a Grease movie. Now, this frightened the Tsar because he knew how obstinate the princess could be on occasions. He ought to know, too, for the princess had a streak of obstinacy direct from himself. "This will never do," he said. He hurried to the princess's chamber and found her in bed with her pretty hair spread out on a pillow like a golden fan. That was strange detail. "My dear," said the Tsar, "I was joking. You don't have to eat only bread and water. You may have anything you want."
Thank you.
Why do I feel...
I don't know why you
the princess has to sing every time.
This is a musical.
The princess said,
"But I'll never eat another bite of anything until you send me someone who will make me laugh. Ha ha. I'm tired of living in this gloomy old castle with an old man and an old woman who do..."
This may be one of the most disturbing things I've ever had to sit through.
"Who do nothing but instruct me with a father who always loses his temper and says, 'Well, well, well.'"
I can't. Did you just really? Wow, wow, wow. But it's a beautiful castle, said the poor Tsar, and I'm sure we're all doing our very best to educate you.
But I want to be amused as well as educated. Ah!
The little princess said. And then... and then, because she felt she was going to cry, she turned her face to the wall and wouldn't say another word.
That's awful. That's the worst thing I've heard so far. Whew. She's not going to say anything the rest of this story. What was the Tsar to do? He called together his counselors and asked them, how was the princess to be made to laugh? The counselors were wise about state matters, but not one of them could suggest a means of amusing the princess. The master of ceremonies did indeed begin to say something about a nice young man, but instantly the Tsar roared out such a wrathful, "Whoa, whoa!" that I might have just peed a little. The master of ceremonies coughed and pretended he hasn't spoken. Then the Tsar called together the scholars and the teachers, and the first lady in waiting. He glared at them savagely and roared, "Oh, again?" "Well, whoa! Oh, a nice lot you are. I put you in charge of my daughter, and not one of you has sense enough to know what the poor child needs, a little amusement. I have a good mind to have you all thrown in the dungeon."
"But, your majesty,"
quavered one poor old scholar,
"I was not employed as a buffoon, but as a teacher of astrology."
"Excuses. And I," another said, "as a teacher of languages."
And I, as a teacher of philosophy, sir."
"Silence!" roared the Tsar. "Between all of you, you have about killed my poor child.
Whoa.
Now I ask you, with all your learning, doesn't one of you know how to make a young girl laugh?" Apparently not one of them did, for no one answered. "Not even you?" the Tsar said, looking at the first lady in waiting.
"When you called me to court,"
the first lady in waiting answered, drawing herself up in a most refined manner,
"you said you wished me to teach your daughter etiquette. As you said nothing about amusement, quite naturally I confined myself to the subject of behavior. If I do say it myself, no one has ever been more devoted to duty than I. I am constantly saying to her, that isn't the way a princess should act. In fact, for years, there has hardly been a moment in the day when I haven't corrected her for something."
I'd like to punch the first lady waiting in the face right now.
"She's doing her job."
Whatever. It's a kid. It's a little girl. "Poor child," groaned the Tsar. "No wonder she wants a change. Oh, what fools you are all, in spite of all your learning. Don't you know that a young girl is a young girl, even if she is a princess?"
So
I thought
true.
this was his idea in the first place.
In the words of Bubba, true dat.
True that. Mm-hmm.
Well, the scholars weren't any more help to the Tsar than the counselors. And finally, in desperation, he sent heralds through the land to announce that to anyone who could make the princess laugh, he would give 3 bags of gold.
I know who's getting the gold.
3 bags of gold don't grow on the bushes every day. Well, no crap.
Me? Does it really say that?
And instantly, all the youths and men and old men who had stories that their sweethearts and their wives and their daughters laughed at hurried to the castle.
And there was a big long line.
They brought their dad jokes. One by one, they were admitted to the princess's chamber. They entered hopefully, But when they saw the Tsar sitting at one side of the door muttering,
Wow.
in his beard, and the old first lady in waiting at the other side of the door watching them scornfully, and the princess herself in bed with her lovely hair spread out like a golden fan on the pillow, they forgot their funny stories and hemmed and hawed and stammered, and finally, one after another, to be turned out in disgrace.
Really?
I think now would be a excellent time for a sponsor break. We've been having a blast with our podcast, and if you've been with us for any amount of time, you've likely enjoyed some of our silly commercials from Bricklebrit Inc., an obvious fictitious entity. An obvious fictitious entity.
We are pleased to announce that we have some pretty big plans moving forward, and very soon, Bricklebrit, the company, will no longer be a fairy tale.
What?
What?
One exciting thing we have planned is a Tales of Bedlam based board game that has been in the planning phase for some time. We are getting really close to making it a reality and will be submitting the details to Kickstarter in the near future.
Kickstarter.com. There will be plenty of gold to be mined and moved, armies to muster and marshal, castles to buy, and deserts to traverse, all intertwined with your favorite Tales of Bedlam characters. Whoop, whoop.
I am so excited!
It's fun.
For details and updates, you can sign up for our newsletter by going to our website at talesofbedlam.com. Scroll down 1/4 of the way and you'll find our new subscribe box. Just enter your email, if you'd like, your first name.
Ooh.
If you're really
adventurous,
you could put your last name.
I won't stalk you, I promise.
And then click subscribe.
Boop, boop. We can't wait to share this journey with you, and thank you so much for making this possible by listening to Tales of Bedlam.
So, a quick recap.
There's a quick recap for 20 pages.
Oh my gosh. So we have a defunct son, which I don't think is defunct because he is an awesome farmer.
We have a funny
who loves
son.
Animals.
We have a cranky dad. We have a petulant daughter who wants to laugh.
You have some nitpicking brothers.
No, the brothers.
So we have a king's daughter who is refusing to eat until someone can make her laugh. The king has offered 3 bags of gold to anyone in the kingdom who could make her laugh.
Yeah, and gold doesn't grow on bushes.
And no, it specifically states that it doesn't. And then no one is able to. They've all been turned away in disgrace.
Because they're weenies. I could make her laugh. 1 day went by, and 2 and 3, and still the princess refused to eat. Well, I hope she's drinking, because she can not eat for a long time, but you have to drink.
Well, it just says eat, so
I think we're good. Eat. I think we're good. In despair, the Tsar sent out its heralds again. This time, he said, to anyone who would make the princess laugh, he would give the...
Of course.
Here we go. He would give the princess his hand in marriage and make him joint heir to the kingdom. Because we didn't ask the princess for her consent.
That is an awesome prize.
No. What? Wow!
Well, I mean, if you're a single guy in the kingdom.
Not if you're the princess.
An awesome joke.
But not if you're the princess.
Heir to the king.
But if you're the princess, you just gotta marry some random schmuck that has a joke?
Yep. Pretty much. Good fathering. Parenting 101.
I had expected to wed her to the son of some great Tsar, he sighed. But I'd rather marry to her farmer than see her die of starvation.
Or you could spank her. The herald... Oh, sorry, it's you again.
Nice. The heralds rode far and wide until everyone, even the people on the most distant farms, had heard the Tsar's offer. We're back to Mihailo?
Mm-hmm.
I won't try again, said Mihailo, the oldest son of the farmer. I've already told you about. What? Why did they add that in there? I'm going to start that all over again.
It's like the narrator.
We've get
That's
3/4 of the way through the story, and all of a sudden we have a narrator. I won't try again, said Mihailo, the oldest son of the farmer I've already told you about. I don't know why we had to tell you again. When I went there the day before yesterday, I began telling her a funny story out of my Latin book. That was hysterical.
I bet that was funny.
Patria sum pate. But instead of laughing, she said, "Oh, send him away. So now she'll have to starve to death for all of me."
Me too, said Jackoff, the second son. When I tried to tell her that funny story of how I traded the moldy oats for the old widow's fat pig, instead of laughing, she looked at me straight in my face and said, "Cheat."
Yeah,
Cheater.
Well, that's what you are, a big jerk.
Worthless jerk.
Stefan ought to go, Mihailo suggested. Maybe she'd laugh at him. Everybody else does.
He spoke sneeringly, but Stefan only smiled.
Who knows? Perhaps I'll go. If I do make her laugh, then, oh, my brothers, the laugh will be on you.
Oh, yes.
For I shall become Tsar, and you two will be known as
Beheaded.
my two poor brothers.
Oh, sorry.
What a joke that would be. Stefan laughed loud and heartily, and his little sister joined him, but his brothers looked at him sourly.
He grows more foolish all the time, they told each other. But when they were gone to bed, Militsa slipped over to Stefan and whispered in his ear,
Brother, you must go to the princess. Tell her the story that begins. In my young days, when I was an old man, I think she'll just have to laugh. And if she laughs, then she can eat. And she must be very hungry by this time.
Yeah, probably pretty hungry. I'm kind of hungry. And
they said it was 3 days now.
Yeah.
So it might be 4 by this time.
I'm hungry and I haven't eaten 3 hours.
Oh my. We should get something for you.
At first, Stefan said no, he wouldn't go. But Militsa insisted, and finally, to please her, he said he would. So early the next morning, he dressed himself in his fine Sunday shirt with its blue and red embroidery. He put on his bright red Sunday sash. Who doesn't have a Sunday sash? And his long, shiny boots. Then he mounted his horse, and before his brothers were awake, he rode off to the Tsar's castle. There he awaited his turn to be admitted to the princess's chamber. When he came in, he was so young and healthy and vigorous.
Wow.
That he seemed to bring with him a little of the freshness of the outdoors.
Well, that's not you.
Nope. Nope. The first lady in waiting looked at him askance, for without doubt he was a farmer lad, and his table manners probably were not good.
No, he doesn't know a salad fork from his main course fork, does he?
Oh, he probably didn't use a fork. He just rams it in. Well, he was a farmer lad, and for that reason, he didn't know that she was the first lady in waiting. He glanced at her once and thought, what an ugly old woman. I like him.
Wow.
I like him already.
That's...
He thought it. He didn't say it out loud. Welcome to my life, sir.
You would have said it out loud.
I don't say it out loud. I think it.
I've been with you in public.
It's true.
It's hard.
Touche. And thereafter, he didn't think of her at all. He glanced likewise at the Tsar, and the Tsar reminded him of a bull What's that mean? Of his own?
Yeah, one of his own bulls
okay.
on the farm.
He glanced likewise at the Tsar, and the Tsar reminded him of a bull of his own. He wasn't afraid of the bull, so why be afraid of the Tsar? Boom. Suddenly he saw the princess lying in the bed with her lovely hair spread out on the pillow like a golden fan. And for a moment, he couldn't speak. He knelt beside the bed and kissed her hand. This is just
It
getting
was love
weird.
at first sight. Oh.
Princess, he said, I'm not learned and I'm not clever. And I don't suppose I can succeed where so many wise men have failed. And even if I do make you laugh, you won't have to marry me unless you want to. Because the reason I really came was to please Mitsla.
Melitza.
The reason I really came was to please Melitza.
Melitza. Who is that?
Jesus, you're singing again. I have to go back and say, kudos to Stefan.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to marry me. He's giving her consent. Thank you, sir.
Chivalry.
Yes, princess, my dear little sister Melitza, she loves me very much. And so she thinks the stories I tell her is funny, and she laughs at them. Last night she said to me, Stefan, you must go to the princess and tell the story that begins. In my young days, when I was an old man, I think she'll just have to laugh, and if she laughs, she can eat, and she must be very hungry by this time.
I am,
the princess said with a catch in her voice. Then she added,
I think I like that little sister of yours. I think I like you too. I wish you could. I wish you would tell me the story.
But princess, it's a very foolish story.
The foolisher, the better.
Is foolisher a word? I don't think it is.
it is now.
The more foolish. This is terrible grammar.
Go ahead. It gets there.
Just here, the first lady in waiting tried to correct the princess, for of course.
You are the first lady in waiting, for sure.
I am. How embarrassing. How embarrassed am I right now? For of course she would have said, the more foolish, the better. But the Tsar shut her up with a black frown and one fierce, whoa!
Oh, you so walked into that one.
I so did. Well then, he began. In my younger days, when I was an old man, I used to count my bees every morning. It was easy enough to count the bees, but not the beehives, because I had too many hives. Is this the nonsense? Because I'm lost. I have to read this. One day, when I finished counting, I found that my bees was missing.
No. Try that again.
I found that my best bee was missing.
Of course.
At once, I saddled a rooster and set out to find him. This
is the best story ever.
Wow.
Father,
cried the princess.
Did you hear what the Stefan said? He said he saddled his rooster before it was shod.
I could make this story way funnier, but it's already long enough. Muttered the Tsar, and the first lady in waiting said severely,
Princess, do not interrupt. Young man, continue.
His track led to the sea, which I rode across on a bridge. The first thing I saw on the other side of the sea was my bee.
He found it.
He found his best bee. There he was in a field of millet, harnessed to a plow. That's my bee! I shouted to the man who was driving him. Is that so? The man said. And without any words, he gave me back my bee, and he handed me a bag of millet to pay me for the plowing. What?
Okay.
I took the bag and I tied it securely on the bee.
This is a huge bee.
Or a small sack, you don't know. Then I unsaddled the rooster and mounted the bee.
It's a huge bee.
Huge bee. The rooster, poor thing, was so tired that I had to take him by the hand.
Whoa.
But the rooster has a hand, and led him along beside us.
Father,
the princess cried.
Did you hear that? He took the rooster by the hand. Isn't that funny?
Quite done? Grunted the Tsar, and the first lady in waiting whispered,
Hush now. Let that young man finish.
Wow. I got a big one coming up.
I know, it goes like for like 1,000 words.
Whilst we were crossing the bridge, the string on the bag broke, and all my millet spilled out. When night came, I tied the rooster to the bee and laid down on the seashore to sleep. During the night, some wolves came and killed my bee. What? And when I woke up, I found that all the honey had run out of his body.
That's not how it works.
That is not okay. There was so much honey that it rose up and up until it reached the ankles of the valleys and the knees of the mountains. That was a huge bee. Then I took a hatchet and swam around to a forest where I found 2 deer leaping about on one leg. I found 2 deer leaping about on one leg. Just making sure I said that right. Okie doke. I shot at the deer with my hatchet.
No, you threw your hatchet.
Killed them and skinned them. With the skins, I made 2 leather bottles. I filled these with the honey and strapped them over the rooster's back. This is one handy rooster. Then I rode home. I no sooner arrived home than my father was born.
What?
What? We must have some holy water for the christening, I said.
7 ravens.
I suppose I must go to heaven to fetch some.
What?
But how was I to get there? I thought of my millet. Sure enough, the dampness had made it grow so well that its top now reached the sky.
Huh?
This is weird.
What are we talking about?
I thought his millet all spilled out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The millet he got from the dude that had his bee who was plowing the field.
Sorry, I lost track. There
Catch up.
So many twists.
Millets reached the skies, so all I had to do was climb the millet stalk, and there I was in heaven.
Oh, Jack the Beanstalk here going on.
Up there, they had mown down some of my millet, which they had baked into a loaf, and were eating with boiled milk. Oh, that's my millet, I said. What do you want for it? They asked me. I want some holy water to christen my father who has just been born.
That makes no sense.
And nobody asked him about that.
Time travel.
So they gave me some holy water, and I prepared to descend again to earth. But on earth, there was a violent storm going on, and the wind carried away my millet. So there I was with no way of getting down. I thought of my hair.
Of course.
It was so long that when I stood up, it covered my ears.
And I needed a scrunchie.
It was so long that when I stood up, it covered my ears.
That's really long.
Really? Mine covers my ears.
Chin length at least.
And when I laid down, it reached all the way to the earth.
Oh, well, that was long.
Weird physics going on there. So I pulled out a hair.
What?
Tied it to a tree of heaven, and began descending by it. When it grew dark,
now we're in Rapunzel.
I made a knot in the hair and just sat where I was. It was so cold. So I took a needle, which I happened to have in my coat, split it up, and lighted a fire with the chips.
Oh, Father,
the princess cried.
Stefan says he split a needle into kindling wood. Isn't it funny?
I'm not sure it's funny. I'm so lost.
If you ask me,
the first lady in waiting began. But before she could say more, the Tsar reached over and stepped on her toe so hard that she was forced to end her sentence with a little squealy, oh, mean. The princess, you see, was smiling, and the Tsar was hoping that presently she would burst into a laugh. So he motioned Stefan to continue.
Oh, please. This story is intriguing.
You
didn't see my air quotes. Sorry. That was...
Quote. Intriguing.
Intriguing.
Yeah. I think it's more confusing than everything, but I'm just trying to get through it and not ask questions because I remember the title of the story was Spoke Nonsense. Then I laid down beside the fire and I fell asleep. While I slept, a spark from the fire fell on the hair.
Uh-oh.
And burned it through. I fell to the earth with such force that I sank into the ground up to my chest.
Quicksand.
I couldn't budge. So I was forced to go home and get a spade. What?
Wait. You can't budge. Why? How'd you get home and get a spade?
Don't interrupt. So I was forced to go home and get a spade and dig myself out.
Wait, no, that doesn't make sense.
On the way home, I crossed a field where the reapers were cutting corn.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The heat was so great that they had to stop work.
Popcorn.
I'll get our mare, I said, and then you'll feel cooler. Horses always make me feel cooler.
Oh, yeah.
You know our mare is 2 days long. And as broad as midnight.
Oh.
And she has willow trees growing on her back.
Mm-hmm. Representing tears.
So I ran and got her, and she cast such a cool shadow that the reapers were at once able to go back to work.
Oh, okay.
Now they wanted some fresh drinking water. But when they went to the river, they found it had frozen over.
I don't want to live here.
This is some weird crap going on.
This is a backwards world.
They came back to me and asked me if I would get them some water. Certainly, I said. I went to the river myself. Then I took my head off.
What?
What? Then I took off my head. That's what it says.
Yeah.
Then I took off my head, and with it, I broke a hole in the ice.
Oh, my.
This isn't funny, by the way. I'm still waiting for the funny part. After that, it was easy enough to fetch them some water. But where's your head? They asked. Oh, I must have forgotten it. Your turn to sing.
Okay.
Oh, Father.
The princess cried with a loud laugh.
Ha, ha, ha.
He says,
He forgot his head.
Then
Stefan, what did you do? What did you do?
Oh, Lord, there's more. I run back to the river and got there just as a fox was sniffing at my skull. Hi there, I said, pulling the fox's tail. The fox turned around and gave me a paper.
What?
On which was written these words.
Foxes can write?
He just gave me the paper. Didn't say he wrote on it. Now the princess can eat, for she has laughed, and Stefan and his little sister are very happy.
Ha ha ha. That wasn't funny.
What's the funny part of this story?
What nonsense.
The first lady in waiting murmured with a toss of her head. I'm tossing my hair.
You don't have any hair.
No. Okay.
I tossed mine, though.
Yes, beautiful nonsense.
the princess cried, clapping her hands and going off into a peal after peal of merry laughter.
Lard.
Why does she sing everything? I don't know.
We've already gone through that.
Isn't it beautiful nonsense, Father? Ha 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 ha. And isn't it, Stefan, a dear lad? And Father, I'm awfully hungry.
I'm hungry too.
Please have some food sent in at once, and Stefan must stay and eat with me.
I'm never sorry when that's over. So the Tsar had great trays of food brought in.
Nice.
Roast birds and vegetables.
I burned some calories listening to that crazy story.
And wheaten bread. I'm just going with the roast birds. And many kinds of little cakes. Cake. And honey and milk and fruit. I'm pretty good with the feast.
Very specific on the platters that were brought in.
That's good. Bring me the birds, skip the vegetables and wheat bread. I'll take the cake and honey. I'm lactose intolerant. Keep your milk. I'm okay with fruit. And Stefan and the princess ate and made merry, and the Tsar joined them, and even the first lady in waiting took one little cake, which she crumbled in her handkerchief in a most refined manner.
What? How is that refined?
Why did she eat it? Then Stefan rose to go, and the Tsar said to him, Stefan, I will reward you richly. You have made the princess laugh, and besides, you have not insisted on her marrying you. You're a fine lad, and I shall never forget you.
But, Father,
the princess said,
I don't want Stefan to go. He shan't go. He amuses me, and I like him. I think he's kind of cute.
What?
He said, I needn't marry him unless I wanted to. But, Father, I think I want to marry him. We could walk down the aisle in white.
Your turn's over. It's over.
In the sky.
Your turn's over.
We'll exchange vows and love each other.
Wow!
Forever.
Man, that went on way longer than it needed to. Oh,
that was a bonus.
I wasn't even looking ahead. I already did my wow wow. I was just wow wowing for you to stop. I'm going to do it again. Wow. Wow. The Tsar roared. What? My daughter marry the son of a farmer?
For shame.
That was fine. That's what he said. Can't go back on your word, sir, now that there's consent.
It's true.
Now, Father,
the princess said,
it's not you.
What?
It's no use your wowing me at.
Holy crap.
Yeah, let's start that over.
Now, Father,
the princess said,
it's no use your wowing me and me.
Don't ever.
And you know it isn't. If I can marry Stefan, I wouldn't marry anyone else.
You kidding me?
And if I don't marry anyone else, I'm going to stop eating again. So that's that.
And still holding Stefan's hand, the princess turned her face to the wall.
Speak to the hand.
I have no words. What could the poor Tsar do? At first he fumed and raged, but as usual, After a day or two, he came around to the princess's way of thinking.
Man, he just caves.
She's got him wrapped around her little finger. In fact, it soon seemed to him that Stefan had been his choice from the first. And when one of the counselors remarked,
"Then, your majesty, there's no use in sending word to the neighboring kings that the princess has reached a marriageable age and would like to look over their sons."
"What's going on? He already made the deal." The Tsar flew into an awful temper and roared, "Wow! Wow! You blockhead! Neighboring kings indeed, and their good-for-nothing sons. No siree!" Did I just really read no siree?
Yeah.
"The husband I want for my daughter is an honest farmer lad who knows how to work and how to play. That is the kind of son-in-law we need for this kingdom. This guy needs to sit down and talk to somebody. He is just all over the board." So Stefan and the little princess were married, and from that day the castle was no longer gloomy, but rang with laughter and merriment and idiocy. That wasn't in the story. Presently, the people of the kingdom, following the example of their rulers, were laughing too and cracking jokes. Strange to say, they soon found they were working all the better for their jolly.
Laughter grew so fashionable that even Mihailo and Jakov were forced to take it up. They didn't do it very well, but they practiced at it conscientiously. Whenever people talked about Stefan, they always pushed forward importantly and said, "Ho, ho, ho! Do you mean Stefan, the Laughing Prince? Ha, 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 ha! Why, do you know he's our brother?" As Militsa, the princess, had her come to the castle and said to her, "I owe you all my happiness, my dear, for you was who knew that of course I would laugh at Stefan's nonsense. What sensible girl wouldn't?"
I can't tell you how happy I am that story ended with your strange musical interlude.
You're welcome.
I have no idea what happened. I think the moral of the story was be happy and joyous.
Don't live in a world where you're so...
Don't study or be a cheater.
Mm-hmm.
Just be...
No, wait. We shouldn't tell kids not to study.
Don't study or be a cheater. Laugh and be silly all the time.
No, there is a time for studying. And a time for laughter and joy. No real time for cheating, though, unless you're playing hand and foot.
There's a time to sow, and there's a time to reap. There is a time for all things. But mostly just laugh.
It's the best medicine.
It's the second best medicine. Well, that was rather long and strange. I think the only thought that I have of this is it's a strange Russian tale. Because they're not known for laughter and frivolity, right? You don't think Russian and think, "Oh, haha, nonsense story." You think,
no.
Serious.
Very
War.
serious. We need to kill them all now.
Nuke something.
Man, we're crappy Americans.
Cold War. We like the cold.
We must work very hard to help our neighbors.
What is big deal?
We're done. We're out.
Good night.
That's it. Bye. Holy crap.
That was only an hour and 10 minutes.
Really? I think you're going to cut out half of it. It'll be about 30 minutes long.
I didn't cut out half of it.
Really?
It was all gold.
You could cut out about half of your singing. Oh, my God.
Ah, that's mean. I don't know why she had to sing the whole
I don't
show.
know.
I just felt it in my heart.
I'm glad for your enthusiasm.
It'll make a great episode.
It was awful.
Really?
I'm not sure that... Well, I have a fast forward option.
Ah, it's painful. Wow.
It was painful. You didn't have to hear it. Oh,
I'll hear it when I edit the thing for 2 hours.
well, then you just let me know about your pain.